Greetings, fellow white people. This is totally off the cuff right now. I had an epiphany this afternoon after realizing that the woman who set fire to the Wendy's in Atlanta was white, and realizing that my first reaction was that, it was an infiltrator of the protests, but the reality is there's been infiltrators from the right and the left. And, this whole resurgence of Antifa, everybody's white-splaining what Antifa means on Facebook, when they just found out themselves like a month ago. And the thing is, being Antifa is a privilege. Being able to use violent and destructive tactics is a privilege that is afforded to white people. And we cannot colonize this movement. This movement is not ours to colonize. I've been struggling with how to get the point across that the violence was making things worse. I think this is a pinnacle where we can really start a discussion about how that's happening. And that, when the violence gets blamed on black men and women, that the violence comes back to them. And we're seeing this cyclical thing starting to emerge where nothing is getting better. It's just getting more polarized, it's getting worse, and whoever this woman is, I pity her, but just a little bit. I mean, I working in indigenous rights movements around the Americas, and even doing my grad certificate at UGA, actually, there's been a lot of humbling moments for me, so I'm not coming at you like someone who hasn't been humbled before. I have been hazed, not by people who wanted to hurt me, but by people who made me understand that you cannot colonize a movement. This is not going to work. People need to step back and, if you want to be Antifas, go find another cause to infiltrate. I mean, I get it. I get the good intentions and everything. I want to believe that they're true, but, it just seems like, there's so many fads these days. Like, it's just these manufactured chaos. And meanwhile, speaking of indigenous rights, we are losing entire peoples. I mean, look at what's happening on the Navajo Nation. Check in with the Eastern Band of Cherokee, the Yanomami in Brazil, the Mosquito and Managa, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, in Nicaragua, where the president is saying, that, oh, God will protect them from the coronavirus. And we're losing entire peoples, and we're having this political showdown in the United States that doesn't feel authentic on many levels. People who went from being militant about masks and staying at home to the point of showing privilege there and then turning around and being like flipping the script and doing a 180 and encouraging people to mob up in the streets. That makes the left look so hypocritical and so easily manipulated. Where's the backbone? Where's the sense of continuity? This is a tactic of Russian propaganda to put out these constant invasive messages where you're just I mean, it's just like being in a relationship with a malignant narcissist. A Trump presidency, we all are, you know. We're having to deal with these constant attacks on our values, on our heart, on our people, our friends, our family, and, you know, we're in this constant state of confusion and reactivity. And we have to get past the point of reactivity and into response. In Georgia, when these riots first started, you know, we should have been out there registering people to vote. We should have been coordinating how to get people to the lines. We should have been overseeing the, you know, everything about the election. We should not have been protesting during a pandemic. And I'm going to say something about the defund police movement too. Some polls have shown, I know, right? But that, you know, only a third of black people even support that. I mean, it's just, I believe in a model of community policing. I've been advocating for that on public forums and in private for years and years. And I'm a prison abolitionist at heart. I know it's not that simple. It's really not that simple. And it's something that we have to be strategic about, and not just like a bowl in a china shop. There are lives that are delicate. Human life is delicate. This earth is delicate yet strong. She'll shake us off like... Also, I want to throw out there, like, yeah, we cannot colonize this movement. And we can't wear blinders right now, and there's too many other things happening. I mean, we're looking at a full-on genocide of indigenous peoples around the world because they're the most marginalized from healthcare. You know, they have the least sort of immunity to these sort of diseases because, you know, they're not confronted with the viruses and bacteria that, you know, people that live in urban areas are, you know, more constantly exposed to. And I mean, if you look at indigenous communities, they're not pulling any punches. You know, they're taking this seriously because they have a generational memory of what it's like to be wiped out by a virus like smallpox. I think, you know, enough has been said on that. But this whole colonization of the Black Lives Matter movement has got to stop. You know, I am anti-fascist, but I'm also anti-violence. And, you know, the leaders of, this is the last thing I'm going to say, the leaders of the Standing Rock movement were always like, you know, Indigenous Environmental Network and whatnot, were always very, very careful not to say anything militant in their statements. You know, even though the police were coming and, you know, doing outrageous things there, they did not respond. And, you know, we're telling people not to respond. Even with language, it's important, you know, not to sound militant as if we're gearing up for a war, because we don't need a war. People in the United States are so insular and have become so complacent. Anyone that has lived in a conflict zone, a post-conflict zone, you don't want to see war on your soil. And I think there's a lot of white rage, and there's a lot of, you know, politically motivated, it's not a COVID cough, I don't think. Anyhow, we gotta wrap up this violent shit. That's it.